Shields up, Iron Breakers. How's everybody doing? Today, I'm here to share with you my experience at Gamescom 2017 with Sinner, Sacrifice for Redemption. Now, I'm sorry about my voice. It's not going to be amazing because I was at a bachelor party last night, so I probably sound really bad right now, but anyways, we're gonna soldier through this. I wanted to share with you guys the whole Sinner thing because I know that when I did that that live stream, that very awkward live stream in my vacation, a lot of you guys were excited about it. And when I was at Gamescom, I was actually able to not only play the game, they also allowed me to pretty much record as much as I wanted to, even though I did limit myself a little bit because I don't want to spoil too much. But throughout this video, I will be showing you guys a lot of stuff about Sinner. I think I have like 14 or 15 minutes of gameplay, plus the interview that I had with Wang Chan, who is the CEO of Darkstar, who is also the person who is there doing a presentation on the game itself. So we got a lot of footage to go through, but as I'm well aware, a lot of you guys are particularly sensitive to spoilers, so I really wanted to let you guys know that I do have some edited gameplay in the middle of the interview, but most of that is like not really significant of the bosses, and I'm going to be separating the video in a way where you guys can watch it, and I will tell you what's coming up next, so that if you guys are like, oh, I really don't want to see any of the boss fights or any of this other stuff, then you guys can tune out of the video whenever you want. But later in the video, I will be showing the 3 boss fights that I had access to and doing a little bit of a play-by-play, so to speak, to tell you guys the different boss mechanics that they used and all of that. I already see a question chat asking, is the game out already or is it the beta? The thing that you guys are watching right now, just like saying press any key to start, that is not the game. That is just a loop that I recorded, so it's just sitting there animating so that it looks pretty. It's not the game running in the background. I don't have the game. I have footage of the game that I will show you. Anyway, so let's get this started. I think one of the very first things that people are going to be curious about is the controls. Now, do keep in mind that the version of the game that I've played is very much an alpha. It still needs a lot of polish, and I don't want people to judge the footage that I'm about to show you too harshly. Again, remember, this is very, very early alpha, and the devs were nice enough to pretty much let me capture completely unmonitored. They were just like, dude, just capture whatever the hell you want. So keep that in mind as we go through this this footage here. Now, the very first thing that I wanted to show you was the controls. I do have a screen grab of the controls here. Let me just grab that. Boom. So these are the current controls that you have in the game. And for those of you who have played Dark Souls, you guys are going to notice quite a few things are different here. So you still have defend and parry on the left bumper button, or the L1 if you're thinking in PS4 in terms of PlayStation 4. And the way that it says there, defense parry, it pretty much means you use the same button for both. Now, depending on which weapon you have equipped, which right now there are only 2 weapons that I was able to play with. There was the 2-handed sword as well as the 1-handed sword and shield. So if you were to defend with 1-handed sword, you would defend with your shield. If you were to defend with the 2-handed sword, you would put his 2-handed sword like in a defensive stance. And that's how that would go. Now, the other important thing is, like, since it's doing defense and parry, how does the parry work? If you block at the exact right time, you will get a parry. Now, I personally wasn't able to get one, although I also didn't try particularly hard to do it because it seemed to me that the bosses that I fought, I would benefit more from dodging and counterattacking than necessarily trying to block their hits. But that could be a misconception from having played previous games like this before, so anyway, another interesting thing that you guys will see is that the right trigger, it says there, rush. Rush is pretty much running, so you have a different button for dodging and running. And some of you guys were like, oh, you know, it's whatever. It's not a big deal. You will get used to it pretty fast. It didn't took me too long. Just like, I'll just right trigger run. Not a problem at all. Right button, use item. So instead of like usually having square like we have in Souls, you use an item that way. As a matter of fact, I'll be showing you guys some of the items that were available to us in the game. Then you have X or square for your light attacks, Y or triangle for your heavy attacks, and the heavy attacks can be charged, allowing you to charge them for additional damage if you so desire. You have your B or circle for roll, you have your A or X for action, and then you have a lock on to target, and you have also the D-pad for switching items and swapping weapons, because like I said, you only have 2 weapons available to you right now. There might be weapons that become available later down the line. This is actually mentioned in the interview, so I'm not going to talk too much about that just yet. And yeah, these are pretty much the basic controls to give you guys a feel for the game. Shane Farjo, is this beta or alpha? This is like super alpha, like hyper early stuff. Anyway, let me just get these overlays out of the way here. So I'm gonna get rid of that and get rid of that. And now what we have in the background is actually gameplay footage that I have on my PC that I will be controlling to share with you guys a couple of things. So the first thing that I'll be showing you guys is a little bit of just the moveset. So if you guys just want to see what the gameplay feels like, what the moveset of the character is like, this is a pretty good point for you. So let's start with that. So this is Adam right here. You guys can see the long two-handed sword, which kind of looks like a flamberge. You see a spear. That spear is actually a usable item. You see this lantern-looking thing. This is actually his potions. You see the shield and the regular sword. Now, very first thing that you guys will notice is there is no camera movement. The camera is locked. This is a design decision because the developers, again, this is going to be mentioned during the interview, but the developers want to be able to swap camera angles on you to, like, in case they have a boss that has a ton of minions or maybe a boss that fires multiple projectiles at you, and they can like swap the camera to allow you to better deal with the situation instead of having to constantly struggle with the camera. So the camera will be fixed. However, there is still lock on to allow you to lock on to different parts of the boss's body. Now, moving onwards, right now you guys can see me doing a little bit of running just to show you guys what running looks like. There are running attacks, although I didn't really do one at the very start. I only did one closer to the end of showcasing the moveset. This is the health potion right there, the health potion. So that is what you do to heal yourself. Now I'm swapping over into thrown spear, which almost looks like a lightning spear, and there's also grenades, as well as an item that will allow you to set your sword on fire. Now, an important thing about setting your sword on fire is if you guys pay close attention to our health, whenever the sword is on fire, it is actually draining health from your character. So it is a risk-reward type of situation. So yeah, you'll have to weigh that. It's like, do I want to take the chance of receiving not additional damage, but a ticking damage, as you guys can see. Like, you look at the health, you'll see that our health is constantly going down. You're also looking at the basic attack movesets. These are the light attacks. And I believe this is a heavy charged attack. You don't have to charge it. The attack looks exactly the same, goes faster, but deals less damage. But that is what it looks like when you do a full charged attack with the regular light sword. As you can see in the middle of the moveset there, you also get a couple of shield bashes in, which obviously you guys know me. I'm a sucker for shield bashes, so I liked it quite a bit. But yeah, this is your basic moveset. Then I swap to the longsword, and as you can see, the flame effect transfers to the flamberge looking weapon. So when you use that, it's pretty much applied to any weapon that you draw out. Arc 101, did they change the healing animation? I remember looking exactly like the Estus from Dark Souls. It definitely looks a lot like Dark. A lot of the stuff in this game looks extremely similar from Dark Souls, and I mean that from both an animation perspective as well as even a mechanics perspective. Like, me figuring out where the invincibility frames in the dodge roll were, it was like that. It was literally like that. I'm like, yep, I know exactly when I have to dodge because this is like super familiar. So this is the charged attack for the flamberge looking weapon. Then you also have the basic attacks. Once again, remember you can do the heavy attack without necessarily charging it all the way, but I was charging it all the way to like showcase what it looks like. Your health also regenerates over time. You guys will notice that it is regenerating right now, that we're no longer with the flaming sword. But yeah, that's the moveset. There's the blocking. That's what blocking looks like with the big sword. I was like spamming a little bit there. And if you block with the short sword, yeah, I think I did that too, right? Yeah, this is blocking. So there you go. This is what blocking looks like, and I believe this is. Oh yeah, right now I'm gonna do a quick running attack at least to show you guys the running attacks. And the running attack animation, I'm not gonna lie, it's also going to feel very familiar for you guys, particularly the one with the the two-handed sword. Like this is your regular running attack animation with the sword and shield. Now when I swap, one of the things that I gotta say though, I really like the fact that as you're moving and you're running with the two-handed sword, I like that it's like dragging through the floor. I think that looks pretty cool. And that is the running attack. Feels familiar, doesn't it? Yeah, a lot of this game feels extremely familiar. And I do hope that they change up a couple of things so that it doesn't look quite as close as it does to Dark Souls right now. Because, yeah, right now it is a little bit too familiar in a way. But anyway, let's keep going here. So I believe that at this point I do a couple of more attacks and then we go into the very first boss fight. Yep, this is going into the first boss fight. But before we head in there, I want you guys to pay attention to this very interesting mechanic. Now, this is the level down mechanic that I've mentioned to you guys on the very first video that I did about this game. So as you can see, there's like a stone here. You're going to click this stone and it's going to give you an option. So this is to fight against the Paladin Rhodes, and Paladin Rhodes has the power of fate. Faith. And now the first option that you guys get is sacrifice. You guys are like, what are you talking about? Sacrifice. What is this? So I'm going to click sacrifice. Notice what happens. So you're donating part of your power in order to fight this specific boss. And what you donated this time around, as you guys can see on the screen right now, is your attack power has been decreased. Now, depending on which boss you fight, what you give away is going to change. I will tell you guys the changes of the 3 bosses that we have right now. But again, bear in mind, me telling you these changes shouldn't be considered a spoiler, because I'm pretty sure a lot of this stuff is going to change. This was just like a proof of concept that they had for us. So you wanted to fight this boss, they will nerf your damage. Now, the particular thing that happens with Sinner Sacrifice for Redemption is that this change is permanent. So as you progress through the game, your attack power is decreased forever. And you guys are like, oh, wow, that seems pretty harsh. Yeah, and as you take on more and more bosses, your power will continue to gradually decrease. So basically, the purpose of the game, and one of the hardest things for players, is going to be deciding which order they're going to do the bosses in. Because, like, this boss takes away your attack power. There's another boss that will take away some of your health and some of your stamina permanently. There is another boss in here that takes away all of your consumables, so except for healing potions. So basically, you're going to have to figure out, okay, so for this boss, what abilities do I definitely need to have before I lose the ability that I'm sacrificing to this boss? You're going to have to figure that out, because the game is going to have 7 bosses plus 1 final boss. Those 7 bosses represent the 7 sins. You know, you guys know 7 deadly sins: greed, sloth, envy, all these other things. I don't even know them all to my head. But anyway, so it's going to be the 7 deadly sins, and you're going to have to pick which order you're going to kill them in. And now you guys are like, okay, so say I made a mistake. Say I killed a boss, and now I'm like, oh, wow, I could really use that power back. You can come back to any of the bosses that you've killed. You can resurrect them and get your power back so that you can go defeat another boss. But then you have to come back and kill the boss that you resurrected again, because ultimately your objective is going to be to beat all of the bosses. There's going to be 8 bosses total. That is what is currently planned for the game. And yeah, that's like the level down mechanic in a nutshell. Ignite Train, the developer is Darkstar Games. They are a Chinese developer, and they are working with another indie to publish the title. Okay, so before we continue, because like I said, after this point in the gameplay footage, I will be showing actual boss fights and stuff like that. I wanted to show you guys the interview that I had with Wang Chan, the CEO of Darkstar, who was kind enough to allow me to interview him. It was like literally on the spot. I was like, "Hey, dude, can I do an interview with you?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." So we did an interview, and I just want to warn you guys: his English is not amazing, so it is going to be hard to understand, particularly because it was a very noisy area. So there's a lot of background noise. I tried to reduce as much as I could by using specific microphones and whatnot. But what I'm saying is, the interview is not perfect. It's the best that I could do with the gear that I had and the location that we were in. So here comes the interview, and I will return immediately after to show you guys the boss fights. Enjoy.
I'm Wang Chen, and you can also call me David. And I'm the programmer, and I'm also the business director, and I'm the CEO. So we are a small company. We have only 7 people. Each one has a lot of job to do.
Oh yeah. You guys are a small team. So Sinner is a little bit like a Souls-like, which is kind of like a term that's been thrown around in the industry now. Would you agree with that? Is it like a Souls-like?
I think because almost the action game, if we want to develop a really purely brutal combat game. Yeah. So I think the Dark Souls or the Bloodborne are the greatest combat game. Yeah. So
okay.
Maybe it's a little similar, but we have do a lot of designs. For example, we have removed the camera-free mode.
Yeah, I noticed that. It was a little bit weird because you're used to, you see a game that looks very much like Dark Souls, and then you try moving the camera, like the camera's not working.
Yeah.
So you remove the camera in order to focus better on the action, so that you can get different cinematic angles and stuff.
Because of the special camera mode, so we can design some different kinds of boss. I think that the Dark Souls boss is almost similar, because you just focus on the you have to close to the boss.
Yeah.
And now you can see our camera could be far away from the scene, and you can get the whole view of the scene, and the boss can spawn many flyers to attack you.
And you can zoom out the camera whenever you need. Okay, yeah. So it enables you to do a couple more different boss encounters, which is cool. So both in the gameplay footage that we've seen so far and the game that I've played right now, we've seen the character, I believe his name is Adam.
Yeah.
We've seen him only with a short sword and a flamberge-like long sword.
Long sword,
are those going to be like, is it going to be mostly the weapons you'll be using, or will you be able to change the weapons?
At first, these are the 2 weapons we provide for the player, and during the process, if you get the 8 bosses done, depends on the different ending, you will get special weapons.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you get special weapons depending on the ending of the game?
Yeah. You have made some different choice. If you defeat the boss, you could just redeem them, or you maybe kill them.
Oh, okay. And so you get to choose.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can redeem or you can kill the boss, and depending on that, it's going to change the ending.
Yeah, and every boss represents a different kind of thing. So we are sinners.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you have to face the 7 things, and you can choose which thing you want to redeem. Yeah.
First. Okay. That's interesting. So tell me a little bit more about the sort of level down mechanic, because in this game you don't really get stronger. It's the other way around.
Weird,
it is a little bit weird, particularly because I only removed 1 power per boss because I only tried out the 3 different bosses. But in the final game, it's like it's going to be cumulative. So the more bosses you kill, the weaker your character becomes.
I think it's maybe anti-human this design, but I think we want players to focus on themselves, just not on the RPG mode or the players. So I think it's you, not the character, to get progress.
Okay.
So I think the sacrifice mechanism is great, just to let you to think about yourself, to observe the boss, his action, and you make your own decision. We are not a game that likes you just press all the buttons together and just get through the stage.
It's not a button masher. It is definitely not a button masher. So I wanted to know more about the levels. So you're saying that you're mostly going to be boss battles, so there's not really going to be like levels with minions and puzzles and that kind of stuff?
We have 8 bosses, and but some bosses will include some minimums. And especially for one boss, the boss will be hidden in the minimums.
In the middle of the minimums. But you don't have like traditional levels. It's mostly like you select bosses and then you fight boss. It's a boss rush game. So
it's a boss rush game because of the scope of our team. Yes, we want to focus on a specific field of the battle. Yeah.
So you want to go quality over quantity, which is it's always good to hear. So tell us a little bit more about the world. You say we have Adam, we're a sinner. Can you tell us a little bit more about the story and the lore of the character?
I think that the Adam is maybe the origin of the sinner, and he has many stories about the 7 sins. And we have some special cut scenes. Sorry, not for show, for the showcase build. And each boss have the story, and we will tell after that. And maybe one of the boss will be the sinner's, maybe girlfriend or something. I think I don't want to say more anymore. Maybe something like that. We're still.
You're still figuring out the lore, But that's very interesting that you can have like characters that are familiar to the character and they show up as bosses. That's a neat mechanic. So in the 3 bosses that I fought, it was always in an arena. So are you thinking that most bosses will be arenas, or will you be like changing it up and maybe have like dynamic arenas that will change with each boss?
I think maybe it will just focus on the arenas, but we have totally different arenas. And different kinds of arena. So and we have some special designs for each bottle. And maybe you can feel that the first one, if you get to the center, you will die.
I noticed that. You can't even dodge it. It's just like boom, done.
So I think we can get a lot of surprise for although we have only the 8 bosses, but we have many special designs to let the people feel, whoa, it's great. It's terrible. It makes me angry about that something.
So do you have plans for potential DLC for the game? Because right now you're working on 8 bosses, and you say that. What do you estimate the length of the game is going to be?
Definitely we will go on with the DLC, and we have already thinking about this. Maybe more bosses, or maybe more difficulty about the boss, and also we will try to design a whole scene, a whole scenery to let people to explore.
So like an actual level?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's what you're considering. So I was also wondering, like with 8 bosses, what do you estimate the game length is going to be? Are you ready to talk about that right now?
Actually, it depends on the players.
Let's say an average player.
I think average maybe 4 hours.
Okay.
It's just to learn the boss skills and the action.
Okay. Do you have any idea on the release window?
Release window?
For the game.
We will publish it on the 2018, probably Q1.
Q1 2018?
And we will publish on PS4, Xbox One, and Steam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Looks like the interview is over. Sorry about that. It was a bit of an awkward transition because I wasn't sure what was going to happen when it finished playing the video. It's the first time I tried this out in OBS. Anyway, that was the interview with Wang Chen. I'm really happy that I got to talk with him about a couple of things. There was actually something that it wasn't mentioned in the interview itself, but I was talking with him after the interview, and it's not a secret or anything. It's just because we kept talking after the interview was over, and there was something that I didn't record, and that was specifically about early access, because I'm not a huge fan of early access, and I was asking him, okay, so you guys are coming to Steam, so early access is a possibility, and he just straight up said, no, you don't want to do that, and I was like, cool. It's like I kind of feel that nowadays early access has become a little bit more of a negative point than necessarily a good point, because then game comes out, you play it, by the time the actual game comes out, you're kind of tired of it. So I was pretty happy about that. This is not going to be full retail price, this game. I'm pretty sure it's not. As a matter of fact, in the interview, he says that he expects the game to last about 4 hours. If you're just an average player, if you're a good player, probably a little bit less. So again, they're a very small team. It's like 7 people developing this game or something at this point. So this is going to be, more of a budget type of title. At least that's my interpretation of it. But anyway, right now, like I promised, I'm gonna share with you guys gameplay footage of some of the bosses. So, like I said, if you're super excited about Sinner's Sacrifice for Redemption, and if you want to go in completely blind, this is the point where I'm going to show you the first boss fight, and I'm going to commentate over it and my experience of it. I do expect that these fights will change significantly because, like I said, this is like super alpha. But if you really want to be super unspoiled, now is the time to stop watching. 1, 2, 3. I've given you 3 seconds to walk away. If you haven't walked away by now, you want to watch this. So let's go. So we sacrificed our attack power, and we went in to fight the Paladin Rhodes. So after you sacrifice, you can see that there's an option here that says Atonement and Retrieve Sacrifice. So Atonement is to go into the boss fight itself. Retrieve Sacrifice is the thing that I told you guys where you can just get your power back if you want to. So when you go to Atonement, a little portal opens, your character goes through it, and you get a loading screen. It's actually pretty fast. This thing was running on a laptop, so yeah. There you go. This is your first boss fight. This was not the first time that I was fighting him, which is why you guys might be, oh, this looks super easy. It's because I think at this point, this was like my 5th attempt or something, because before coming to record, I had played the game previously, and I played quite a bit of it. Let me just see if the audio is a little bit loud or not. The audio is a little bit loud, but anyway. This should be fine. You guys should be able to hear me. Let me know if it's too loud. So as you guys can see, this almost looks, at least to me, this looked very much like Tower Knight. A little bit of an interesting thing before we begin. You guys see when the boss falls down right there? So you guys can see him up there. Then he jumps. Then he falls there. If you're there when he falls down, like, forget about invincibility frames, forget about blocking, forget about everything. If you're there when he falls down, dead. It's like, that's it. There's no invincibility frames. There's no one coming to save you. If you're there at the moment he drops, you're just dead. At the bottom left, yes, I believe that is currency, but there was nothing to use it on this particular demo. I think it was just there for reference, for like UI references. Speaking of UI, we can take a look at the UI real quick so that you guys can see it. The very first icon, oh, I can actually point using the cursor. This icon represents the weapon that you have equipped. This is your alternate weapon, so you press down or up and you swap these 2 icons. depending on if you're using sword and shield or the two-handed sword. This icon is your health potion indicator, which we have 7 of. I'm not sure if you guys can see that very well on YouTube, but it says here that we have 7. This right here is the spears indicator, which we have 20. This is the grenades, well, not grenades, like flaming potions, whatever, of which we have 10. And this flaming symbol is that fire enchant that I showed you at the start of this stream, of which we have 2. I don't think I use a whole lot of consumables in this fight, because I just wanted to make sure that I at least killed one of the bosses. So I took a pretty safe approach here. So as you guys can see, I'm nailing pretty much every single dodge roll because, again, these dodge rolls are very, very similar to the dodge rolls in Dark Souls. Therefore, you know, anyone who's played them and knows where the invincibility frames are, you guys can pretty much exploit the crap out of this boss. As a matter of fact, I want to say that the invincibility frames on the roll felt extremely generous, like very, very generous. Another like quick point is that I know the audio does not sound great. Again, super early alpha, so I expect all of that stuff to be polished up completely. Like the audio, like I was very disappointed with the audio, but they told me, yeah, it's alpha. We just want to have something playable for people to check out. Let's continue. I'm going after the legs. I was half expecting that after I took out a leg, I'd be able to target the head, but you're not able to target the head at all. So you can see him doing a little summoning thing there with a couple of attacks. Again, we're just going to dodge, going to continue to bob and weave. He's gonna hit us a couple of times, but as you can see, we're already halfway through. He's entering his second stage. And during his second stage, he's going to become a little bit more aggressive. He's going to get like a couple of more attacks, and he now has minions. You can see that there's a minion over there. Those minions actually hurt quite a bit, and the interesting thing is that he also damages the minions. So you guys saw one of the minions just fly off of the arena, which, by the way, if you fall off of the arena, that's just like insta-give, so you really want to avoid that. You can swap the targets very much like you do in Dark Souls with the right stick. It's just I was super focused on taking down the boss, so I didn't want it to focus too much on minions. Missing my dodges here a little bit because I was getting a little bit nervous here. I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna be able to kill him. LP Abyss, usable items replenish. For this alpha, your usable items would replenish. All of them would replenish. I'm not sure if that's gonna be the case for the final game. Look at him just curb stomping me right there with the foot and the shield. And for a second there, I was like, dude, I'm not gonna make it. But then I started going in, dealing some more damage. But yeah, as you can see, he becomes a lot more aggressive. His moveset changes significantly. And there's this little charge attack that he does. So yeah, it gets harder. Even though it's probably looking a little bit easy right now, it's not super easy, trust me on that. Also, we're out of healing potions at this point, and I was like, nah, dude. You ain't taking me down this time. I'm taking you down. Like, I took the chance here. Really laid into him, even though he was doing his attack there. Now he's attacking forward, so I'm trying to take advantage of as much of that as I can. I'm just like, die! Just die already. Luckily enough, his minions were all, like, in the pile over there, so I was cool there. Again, dodging the foot, and I'm just like, no, you're dead. You're dead. But as he died, I got hit by his special attack there. So we killed him, but we died. And yes, temporarily the resource is also called souls. I really think they shouldn't have called it that, but okay. And there you go. This is the screen that you get when you're able to defeat a boss during the Gamescom thing. Another indie is the guys who are publishing the game. Let me move this ahead a little bit onto the next boss fight. So that was the first boss fight. The next boss fight, right here, the Crow Wizard Phase Tillus, Power of Hopeness. Again, I'm not sure if Hopeness is a thing. They're probably going to fix that. But yeah, in order to fight this boss, you would have to sacrifice something else. And in this case, you would have to sacrifice your health and your stamina. However, since this isn't the final version of the game, after I killed the first boss, the game essentially reset. So I don't have my attack decreased. So I have all of my powers right now. My character is at max powers, and then I sacrifice my HP and EP. I'm not sure what EP stands for. It's basically your stamina. But you guys can see how much we lost in order to fight this boss. So let's get in there. And this was the second boss I fought. Now here, I almost had him, but I ended up. Actually, I'm not gonna spoil it. I'm not gonna. So there's an archer here on this bridge. I'm not sure why there's just like a lonely archer on the bridge, but there's the boss right there. So for this boss, I figured, well, to show you guys a bit more variety in the gameplay, I'm gonna be swapping things up and using the heavy weapon. So you guys can see he did a little bit of an AoE attack there, clipped us real good. We're healing already, and yeah, he is dealing tons of damage. There's a lot of poisonous things in here, so that gauge has something to do with poison. He's attacking us with his little thing. There's a couple of leeches going on there. Those leeches will actually cause you to become slow if they blow up on top of you. It's almost like they're spewing out glue. Now again, remember, you don't get to move the camera, so these camera angles, that's also something I feel they need to do a little bit of work on. Now he's got these eyeballs that he's throwing at you, so you want to make sure that you dodge those as much as possible. I am, however, just trying to punish as much as I can, because I'm trying to deal some heavy damage with the big weapon. Again, popping another heal. We're already 3 heals down, but I'm starting to get some good, sweet hits in there. And you can see that he's starting to take some damage. Now he's going to teleport away. You can see the dynamic camera I told you guys about. They're going to start, like, you know, zooming out and stuff whenever is necessary. I was trying to use a ranged item, but I forgot that I lose lock on every time that he goes underground. So I was trying to punish him here with some ranged, also to use some different items and stuff. Now I'm throwing some grenades as well. The grenades are actually really good. Because, like, look at the amount of damage those grenades are dealing, and they set him on fire. So a lot of damage I dealt was also because of the grenades. Like, those friggin' flaming potions were not messing around. He's summoning whatever those things are to deal more poison, and there's the other thing there, because there's poison, and I think the purple one is some kind of a curse thing that he also does. But you can see we're really just laying it into him right now. And I was like, oh, dude, I might actually take this guy out, too. And here, we're stunned because of the leeches thing, and he's going to do this AoE attack. I threw a lightning thing at him, but I gotta move away from that AoE. There's slime falling down. Again, this was the second time that I was fighting this guy, too. That's why I kind of knew about the AoE thing. The first time I fought him, I got killed by the AoE. Now, I do believe that there are some things that need to change, like some of his abilities need to be better communicated. Specifically one that I will show you soon enough. Now, since he's still up there, basically I can't get there, so I was trying to get some of those lightning spears on him. And again, he's attacking us. I'm pretty sure I should be able to block those hits. It's just I'm not even trying because my mindset is so, like, it's so soulsy that I'm not even trying to block bosses because I'm just like, dude, this boss just, like, gonna wreck me if I try to block, so whatever. Again, getting hit by a lot of spells here. Gonna pop another healing potion. I love the effect on the longsword, though, as he's running. The two-handed sword scraping off the ground and the sparks coming out of it. I think it's real cool. And this was when I was like, oh, dude, I got you. I got you dead to rights. And then I forgot about a specific mechanic. So you see those 4 dudes that he just summoned? So again, this is something that they're going to have to communicate better somehow. But those 4 dudes that he just summoned, they're doing that purple thing to me. That little purple skull and bones. And I didn't even remember that, so I was just like, oh, I'm going to keep damaging the boss. Actually, I was running away because I thought he was going to do another AoE, and then I was like, oh no, this is that other thing. Those guys are cursing me. So I had to come in here, and I would have to kill all 4 of them, but the boss came down, and I just started struggling to actually take all of them out at the same time with the boss cursing me, and that gauge is going to fill up. Gauge fills up, I'm dead. That's the curse mechanic of this specific boss. I could have re-challenged him because, like I said, he pretty much allowed me to play for as long as I wanted to. But I decided no, let's leave that one for later, for when the game actually comes out, so that I don't get too tired of all this stuff. And instead, let's challenge the final boss, which the final boss is considerably harder. The final boss, I had no chance of actually killing it. So anyway. This is what you do when there's a boss that you've started to challenge, or maybe you've killed him or whatever, and you're trying to get that power back. You can come here and you can be like, I want to retrieve my sacrifice, so I'm going to get my health and my stamina gauge back. And there you go. And now I can go and I can fight the other boss with all of my powers. The Countess Levin Undok. Undok and Duke. I didn't really read the name all that much. But as you can see, the thing here is prop number decrease. So if you guys now watch, we still have 7 potions, but we no longer have throwing spears, grenades, or the fire enchant on the sword, which, as you can imagine, kind of a disadvantage. Kind of a big disadvantage. So let's now get in there and see what the next boss is like. So the very first time I died to this boss was when she pushed me off a cliff. But this boss is just like, I would have to spend quite a few hours. It's Indok. I'd have to spend quite a few hours fighting it. Now, very interesting thing about the design of this boss is if you notice she has a head on her left hand. And you guys will notice in a second here a little bit of a cool thing that happens. So I was trying to hit her with the big weapon, but she attacks too fast, and she has those swords hanging off of her that she can also use to attack you, and she can also throw axes at you, and she still can do significant amounts of melee damage. Like, you can see those axes swirling around. Now the interesting thing is you can actually block those, like you see me block one right there as well. And you saw the mechanic that I was telling you. Like, look at it right there. She is going to rip off her own head. Watch closely to the boss. She rips off her own head and replaces it with the head she has on the other hand. And now she's actually going to have special lightning attacks. So depending on which head she has different special attacks. And she's already a pretty challenging boss. I don't think they intended for people to actually defeat this boss in Gamescom. Or maybe you could. I mean, if you spent long enough playing the game and practicing it, or if you're just way better than I am, then maybe you could do it, but I wasn't able to do it. I died. And, yeah, that was my Sinner, the Sacrifice for Redemption experience right there. Let me just put on the screen that we have, which I believe is this. And yeah, that is Sinner, Sacrifice for Redemption. Now, I wanted to open up for questions. If any of you guys in chat have any questions, you can just ask me anything you want about the game, and I will try to respond. I'm going to give you guys the basics again while I'm waiting for some of you to maybe come up with some answers. So this game is going to be coming out Q1 2018. It's being developed by Darkstar Games. It is a Chinese developer. It is a team of 7 people, basically. So this is going to be more of a budget title than a AAA, so to speak. It plays very much like a Souls-like, feels very much like a Souls-like, to a fault, even, I would say, because a lot of things almost feel copy-paste. The art style reminds me a lot more of... I get a feel for Demon Souls more so than Dark Souls. But ultimately, it's another one of those. And the interesting thing is the game is not going to have typical levels. It is much more of a boss rush game, as we talked about in the interview. It is going to have 8 bosses, so the 7 deadly sins plus a final boss. Every time that you challenge a boss, you will have to lose something. You will have to sacrifice something. And that is a permanent thing. So you will permanently lose the amount of damage that you're dealing. Then you will permanently lose a little bit of health and a little bit of stamina in the cases that we were going through here. And so by the time you get to the last boss that you choose to fight, because remember, you can choose to fight these bosses in any specific order you want. But by the time you get to the last boss you're challenging, your character is going to be a lot weaker. So the order in which you do these bosses is going to matter. Another very important thing that I haven't mentioned yet is that when you kill these bosses, I think that was mentioned in the interview, you're going to have the choice to redeem or kill them. So you can kill them or you can save them. And depending on what you do, that is going to affect the ending of the game, which eventually is also going to affect your access to new weapons, New Game Plus mode, all of these other things. Arc101 says, looks pretty neat. Hope it doesn't end up having some ridiculous price. Honest opinion so far, too much like Dark Souls. A lot of the things do feel too much like Dark Souls, but one of the main differences here is that this game is more of just about fighting bosses, so it doesn't have actual levels. So that's kind of like the main distinction that I would do from Dark Souls for them, is how they're just having your character just fight boss after boss after boss. Most of these are going to be just like arena after arena after arena. So, and also the level down mechanic makes it different, because whereas in Dark Souls you're leveling up, you're becoming more powerful. This game does it the other way around. As you sacrifice more and more, you're becoming weaker and weaker, which, again, in the interview was mentioned that their intention is not your character gets stronger, is you as a player become stronger. So you're not going to be able to, like for instance, over-level a boss. That's not going to be something that you're going to be doing. If anything, it's going to be the other way around. You're always going to be lower. When, you know, the more you fight bosses, you're always going to be losing more and more power. Were there any enemy/boss specific attacks you could do, like with the Iron Golem in Dark Souls 1? So far, it seems like bosses or enemies have shown having different attacks in different forms or phases. Boss specific attacks I could do, like with the Iron Golem? I'm confused. You mean like breaking him down, like making the boss fall down and stagger? I noticed that in the Tower Knight, he seems to stagger when he transitions into Phase 2 and then later into what seemed like Phase 3. But I wouldn't necessarily call that something that you can exploit, because like the boss can still spew out a bunch of spells at you while he's doing that. So he's actually very dangerous. Anything fancy that I managed to do? Well, I almost managed to kill the second boss by just wailing on him with grenades, but I think that's going to be fixed real fast, particularly after they watch this video. They're going to be like, dude, look at the amount of damage you did with the flammable potions on the second boss. That's not going to work at all. Legendary Battalion. I'd love to see other weapons. So like I said, on your first playthrough, these are, at least right now, according to what was told to me in the interview, unless they change that, these are going to be the weapons that you have available to you. And as you finish the game, you will have access to more weapons, depending on how you finish, which bosses you save, so on and so forth. I've also seen people asking questions about what the lore is going to be like, and they're also being a little bit cryptic about the lore. And the biggest reveal that he told me during the interview is like, maybe one of the bosses is the character's girlfriend. Which I was like, oh my god, yeah, that really opens up stuff for, like, you know, maybe this one of the sins is like a member of his family, you know, stuff like that. And that seemed interesting. The Iron Golem made you do something other than any other boss in the game, which is target a specific body part. No, none of the bosses that I've fought made me target a specific body part. I mean, in the first boss that looks like the Tower Knight, Paladin Rhodes, you have to target his legs, but it's not like you can then exploit that and target another section of his body after that happens. But yeah, you guys, that is Sinner, Sacrifice for Redemption. Thank you all very much for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed today's stream, make sure to hit that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button so that you're always notified whenever I am live streaming. Thank you all very much for watching. If you're watching this later down the line as a video, your comments and feedback are always greatly appreciated. And I will see you guys in the next one.